Jillian here. Welcome to another episode of Winning Insights, a bonus series of the Ride podcast that brings you audio training, tips, and tricks from some of our horse and rider on-demand trainers. So this episode is going to feature Will Knabenshue, who is an all-around quarter horse trainer, and he's going to go over setting up the trail walkover obstacle. He'll give you some tips on where to buy the right poles, what to look for, and how to properly set up your own show course at home. All right, let's get into it. Here's Will.
So here we have a set of walkovers. I've got 3 poles. Before we get started with talking about the walkover, what I want to talk about is the pole itself. I find it really important because we're going to show on 12-foot poles. When you go to your local hardware store, it's going to be really hard sometimes to find a round 12-foot pole. You'll find a round 8-foot pole. For me, that can work, but it really, when you start to get into some more intricate maneuvers, the 8-foot distance is going to really cut you short on what you're going to need to do. So it's better off, most of the time you can find a square 12-foot pole and you're way better off with that. And these are nice and fancy and painted. They don't have to be. You can just be natural wood, and as long as the distances are set correct, that's what's truly important. So here we have a set of walkovers set. If you'll go back and look at your rule book, a walkover should be spaced between 20 and 24 inches. I've set these at 22. Tape measure is really important. I've done this a lot. I can still walk them, but when I set them myself, I still want to use this tape measure. We have a set of risers also here, which as we increase the difficulty of our maneuver for our horses, we'll use these, but when I start out, I really like to leave them on the ground. And like I said, the most important thing is the measurement between these 2 poles. I'll usually start out in the middle to kind of get them set, and then I'll work the ends to make sure they're even. Of course, they probably won't stay that long, for very long, because we usually kind of move them around, but start off with them measured correctly. The reason I set them at 22 is because it's kind of half distance. Usually when you go up in the air, you want a little bit more, when you put the pole up in the air, you want a little bit more space, just gives the horse more room for landings. So I like to set them at 22 because when you get to some of our bigger shows, the distances will get tighter because it increases difficulty. And as a judge, when you have, like last weekend we judged over 120 runs in the senior trail, I need some things to separate those horses. Of course, when you have a tick or a hit, that incurs a penalty, or if they get through clean and the horse really uses its feet, it gives me a higher maneuver score. So when I measure my poles, I'll usually start out in the middle. As I said, I just roll them up and I get them kind of eye shot, and then I'll come in here and drop my tape measure in, okay? And I'll usually roll right to where it says the 22 mark. 22 is halfway between, of course, 20 and 24. So that's where I usually like to set mine. If it's a young horse, I may give it a little bit more room, or I may tighten it up, just depends. But basically, I'll usually stay. And like I said, I put my tape measure here and roll it right to the 22. It's really important for me. You can start out in the middle, but you probably need to check both ends also, because it can be set on a little bit of an angle. And depending on where you cross, you may change the distance of the horse's foot.
Thank you guys for tuning into the Ride podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and please be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow Horse and Rider Magazine on social media and find us at horseandrider.com.
If you guys have any questions or comments, please be sure to hit us up at horseandrider@equinenetwork.com. We want to hear from you guys.
And if you like what you're listening to, be sure to leave us a review on iTunes.